Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Welcome back for another cage match, week 14. And I'm squaring off against my good friend Daniel Dopp, the secret squirrel from ESPN, has made it here to these Twitch and YouTube streets to challenge me in the cage. We're going to be playing for charity, a $100 donation. We'll talk about the charities in just a bit. For those of you who are new to the show, let me explain the format here. If you're playing head-to-heads on Draftkings, you notice that you're going to have overlap with the people that you play against. There might be 3, 4, 5, as many as 7 spots that you have overlapping in your lineup, because when chalk is chalk, and they're very popular players, people tend to gravitate towards those. What we're going to do is we're going to draft like a snake draft, first and 1, second and 2, and then 1, 1, 1 the rest of the way. There is no overlap allowed in the cage. So we're going to have 2 completely unique cash game type lineups that we're going to try and build. It's not about building the optimal lineup for me. It's about pain and how much I can inflict within the rules on my opponent. I have some paths that I think I'm going to be able to go down. Dopp has chosen to pick first in this one. We are playing for the 2 charities that we are playing for today.
Yep.
Dopp is playing for To Write Love on Her Arms. Their mission is a nonprofit dedicated to presenting hope and finding help for people struggling with depression, addiction, self-injury, and suicide. So a great charity there. As always, I will be playing for No Kid Hungry, trying to end child hunger throughout the country. They're doing a great job this year. We've raised a lot of money on this stream for them, both with the cage matches that I am 8-4 this year. Also, every single cent, 100% of the ad revenue raised on YouTube from the Wednesday cage match will be donated to No Kid Hungry at the end of the year, as well as my own personal donation that I will make on top. If you want to take part and donate to either one of these 2 great charities, there will be links down below in the description. Just click show more. And without any further ado, let me bring in Daniel. How's it going, brother?
Hey, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
You didn't tell me you were 8-4 when you asked me to do this. Like, I assumed that you were maybe 500 given your track record, but you know.
I started out hot. And then I went on a little bit of a cold streak where I lost 4 in a row, and then I've run off 4 in a row. So you're probably going to be the start of me losing the last few on the year.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. That's why we're here.
It's a fun format. It's a new way to deliver content that we came up with last year here on the channel, and to raise some awareness and money for charity. But why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media, Instagram, Twitter, as well as this new startup company that you've begun doing content for?
Sure. So I, as hopefully some of you know, I work for ESPN. I produce the Fantasy Focused Football podcast with Matthew Berryfield, Jason Stefania Bell. I occasionally will host the show when somebody is out, and Mike Clay and I will step in and kind of take over some duties there. I also host the DFS podcast with yours truly, Al Zeidenfeld and Mike Clay. Once a week, we'll go through and do a big DFS purge on what we like from that week, and help our season-long listeners hopefully transition over to some DFS and give some love to the DFS community there. And then I also co-host the Fantasy Show with Matthew Berry on ESPN Plus. So you can find that twice a week on Mondays and on Thursdays. So it's a ton of fun. I basically just get to live, eat, and breathe fantasy football, which is, you know, I am super blessed and very lucky to be able to do that for a living and work with such awesome people like Al and Matthew and Field and Mike Clay and Stefania. And there's just so many to list. So you can find me on Twitter at Daniel Dopp. You can find me on Instagram at Something to Break. And I think that's it, Al. I don't think I have anything else that's really important. Other than make sure you check out the new Phoebe Bridgers record, because it was really good this year and you just need to find it. It's called Punisher. Go find it and listen to it. It's super good.
I love your passion for music. You've chosen to go first here. Mm-hmm. So which direction are you going to go with your first pick?
Okay, with my first pick, I am going to take Logan Thomas, tight end, $3,300.
Okay. That pretty much will define where I'm going to go at tight end. At least I think so. I have him as a really great value this week. On our stream, I have not been allowed to say his name because of all the underlings that have said that they were going to lead to these great outcomes, and I've been saying it all year, and anytime I said the chat won't let me say it, and I have to beep out his name. He has been redacted, but 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, 9 targets against Pittsburgh this week, 24 points, 13 points, 10 points against your Detroit Lions in week 10.
Yep.
Is he coming off the redacted list? Or should he come off the redacted list?
he absolutely should, understanding how much usage that he has had. He's getting, I believe he's getting a target. Kyle Soppe, by the way, I just need to mention this. Kyle Soppe does so much for Focus and all of the fantasy things that we do at ESPN. So make sure that you check out Kyle as well. But he sent me a couple of notes over too on a few guys I was hoping I would be able to grab in this cage match. So 59.5% of his offensive snaps result in a route run. And if Antonio Gibson misses any time in this game coming up this week, and I know that he's dealing with a few things,
with turf toe.
And so like there would only be increased possibilities for Logan Thomas, and at $3,300, it's just too cheap at tight end to be able to get that kind of volume and not be able to save that money and go somewhere else. So I think there were a bunch of other people I wanted to go with, but I felt like I needed to go there first because it helps sets up some other things with my lineup. So I mean, we'll see how it works.
Cheap tight end is a great way to go in cash games. And even though he has been on the redacted list, people need to know that he has been in play for the last few weeks. We've talked about him a little bit. And it's a little painful that one of my pet projects on the year during best ball season, I was drafting Logan Thomas in the 18th round with regularity. So like he was that third tight end on teams, and people are like, why are you drafting Logan Thomas? I was like, I think he's gonna do things this year. Now he didn't quite get there all year long, but he seems to be there now. So a solid pick to start your team there. I kind of know where I'm gonna go at tight end, but I'm not gonna reveal anything. And as I said, it's not always about picking the most optimal lineup. Sometimes it's about inflicting pain.
Oh wow.
And Davante Adams is a really good player. And he's playing against the Detroit Lions this week. And I know that you're probably going to be watching that game with interest. And so every single time Aaron Rodgers drops back to pass, I want to cause a little bit of a rumble in the belly. I want that sphincter to clench just a little bit. Oh, don't throw it to Adams. It's going to happen. So I'm going to take Davante Adams, possibly the best cash game play on the board all year. And usually we spend up at running back for that anchor running back guy, but Davante Adams has been putting up anchor running back numbers, not unlike Michael Thomas did last year. Well worth the price. I'm going to start my lineup there. I have one more place that I'm going to go, or that I have to go because I have two picks here, and then we're going to come back to you. I'm going to go with a cheap running back.
Okay. Which
one? I don't really know yet. Because, like, you know, I did think about doing this to you. I did think about going Aaron Jones and Davante Adams here. There was, when you said that you were going to take 1st and 1 last night, I was like, I should take both of the Packers players.
That would be so mean. I mean, it's hard not to take, in all honesty, against the Lions this week, when you saw that the Bears put up, what, 30 on them last week? Like, how do you not take an Aaron Rodgers-led offense and say, like, regardless of what the price point is, like, great value. Who's going to stop Davante Adams in the secondary? Jeff Okudah? Like
they were already an inefficient defense.
Yeah.
Right? And then they got like half their starters got hurt. So now they're an inefficient defense that's playing with backups. So it's just pretty rough. For my value play, it's funny because Best Buys, I think, is going to look very similar at running back to what it looked like last week. David Montgomery has got a run now where he's played Green Bay. Now he's faced Detroit last week. 20 plus points in both of those matchups. And this week his price has come up, so it's a little bit more danger. Like you got to have him score a few more points, but he's got a very good floor based on his pass game usage. He has another top 3 matchup against opposing running backs. So I'm going to go with David Montgomery facing Houston now. Granted, they're not favored, but they are at home. 20 touches is well within the range of possibilities here, and really soft defense against him. So give me David Montgomery at 6,500 to go with my Davante Adams.
I really wanted David Montgomery. I want you to know that he was one of the guys that was on my list. The way that he's been utilized in the passing game, you know, it's so easy to look at David Montgomery and just be like, David Montgomery. You're talking about David Montgomery, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not going to start Bears running back David Montgomery. But like, take the name value out of it. Stop having that like thought in your head and look at the production and what he has been able to do. He is absolutely worth that price point. So I hate to say this, but I think that's a really good pick. Big NFC North fan here.
I'm a big Norris division fan, apparently.
Yeah.
They're known for offense in that division.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Back to you for one.
Okay. I am going to do this.
Okay.
Al? I'm going to take, boy, oh boy, boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right, here's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
I mean, you put me in a spot where I needed to do some things. I don't love it. I'm going to go with $4,200 Robert Tonyan.
Okay.
That's my flex. And I'm going to take Austin Ekeler.
Ooh, solid.
At running back.
Eckler's really good. And the problem here is his prices come down after they laid an egg last week against New England. And Atlanta is a tougher matchup than most people realize against running backs. But his volume should easily override that. And in tournaments this week, although this is not a tournament, in tournaments this week, I think that his percentage might be lower than it should be.
I like the idea of him getting involved again. And after last week's like massively down, oh wait, is it not 1-2-2-2? I thought it was a snake.
It's
so
one
like
the rest of the way, but I'll let you have two.
Oh,
here.
That's my fault.
No, you're good. No, take Ekeler. You're fine. I'll go one.
Snake meant a snake. What you meant was
it's really not a snake. It's really schoolyard pick. Remember, like when you used to pick basketball teams on the schoolyard?
I do.
You'd pick one and then second and two, and then everybody takes one the rest of the way. But whatever. Take Ekeler here. I'm fine.
Man. All right. Now I feel bad. But I'm going with the double tight end stack here, or double tight end. So I in part because I want to play the opposite end of that Davante Adams, so that every time Robert Tonyan catches one of his 2 touchdown catches, you're like, no, why wasn't it Davante Adams?
That would be I will be so upset if Tonyan catches a touchdown this week. You've locked up your flex. You've locked up your tight end. I'm going to come back here with one play. I think there's a few ways that I can go here. I really do. And there's a really good value play, but I'm not going to take him. For the simple reason that
play this week.
What's that?
Only one good value play this week?
No, there's a few. It's a kind of a tight week on value right now. But I don't want to have multiple of Chicago Bears offensive players in my lineup. So I'm not going to go that direction. I am going to take a value wide receiver here. In the last couple of weeks, he's gotten 19 targets. He's 3,800. So the return of Andy Dalton, especially in this Red Dead Redemption game, his revenge game against the Bengals, if he throws 7, 8, 9 targets towards Michael Gallup, I'm not going to be upset at 3,800. I want to get as much value at wide receiver as I can to kind of have to balance out my Davante Adams spend. So I know I need to have one, maybe 2 value plays in this lineup. I think that Gallup is a better value play than most want to admit, again, because of how he did not do well early in the season, right? Like how they were utilizing him early in the season is not how they're utilizing him now with Dak Prescott then versus with Andy Dalton now. Dalton seems to like throwing the ball at Gallup, especially when they get inside the red zone. So I'm going to take my chances here with a high volume, at least the last 2 weeks, wide receiver option against a bad defense with big play upside.
I'll tell you what, like that, this is something that we're going to talk about tomorrow on the show. When you look at that Cowboys roster, and those wide receivers are getting some targets, man. Like I understand they were slow. They did not look good. It has been like a struggle the last couple of weeks, but 9 targets for CeeDee Lamb, 9 targets for Amari Cooper, 11 for Michael Gallup. Like there's, man,
a lot of targets to go around in that offense, but this is a low totaled game, so it may be a little bit more condensed than it was on Monday night or Tuesday night when they were throwing the ball all over the park. But back to you for one here.
Thank you for clarifying that it was 1. With my next pick, I'm going to take, because this is going to be such a high scoring game, I'm going to take Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen coming off the schneid after a tough week last week. I like the idea that Falcons game, I think, is going to be a lot of points, have the potential to be scored. I think Justin Herbert, coming off some rough weeks, has the ability to hopefully get Keenan Allen involved. It's going to be tough, man. This is hard because we can't have any overlap here. So there's so much that's tough about it. But I just, the idea that both Ekeler and Keenan Allen have seen over 44% of targets over the last 2 weeks on that team. Like if I can lock up almost a 50% target share from a Justin Herbert led offense where I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. Like I realize they're a little higher priced, but I like it. I'm ready there.
And Justin Herbert in games where the Chargers have scored over 20 points is averaging 27 DraftKings points in those games. So if that offense scores points, it comes through Herbert's arm. So Keenan Allen and Ekeler, you're locking up like 20 targets right there. Probably. So coming back to me here, I'm going to take an extreme value. I don't need to take this value here. I could wait on it. There's nothing you can do. I'll just wait on it. I don't need him yet. So I'm going to take a running back. Now, we spoke earlier about how there's a turf toe situation in Washington.
Yep.
And that is opening up more snaps. Now, while Peyton Barber is going to be the guy that gets the carries, they might be meaningless carries. He might get the inside the 5 carries too, which those are high leverage, high value carries. But JD McKissic getting about 50% of the snaps, assumedly with the absence or the likely absence of Antonio Gibson in this offense, a lot of targets theoretically headed his way against a team that is difficult to target outside against, difficult against tight ends. So JD McKissic could get a lot of drop down, a lot of little dump off passes his way, and all of those add up. Every target that he gets is worth 2.7 carries. I don't need carries from him. I do want 7-8 targets in this game. Very easily convertible targets into catches. So a very high floor for 4,900. And if he can kind of get loose on one and find his way in the end zone, it's a massive profit because I really only need like 14, 15 points out of him at 4.9K. So Captain check down, hook me up.
Okay, man, I'm surprised chat's not going to riot. They really wanted you to go with Justin Herbert there to be able to block me.
I don't do that. I will block you in spaces, but like quarterback is not the place where I want to block. Because like if Herbert has a really big day, then Ekeler and Allen both probably have a really big day.
I agree with that. That's sort of the plan here, which is why Justin Herbert is my next player I'm going to take off the board. I thought about going with Aaron Rodgers once you said that because I could then pair him with Robert Tonyan, but I just like that price point, rookie quarterback. Now, listen, I am fully set up where if the Chargers have another rough day, I am absolutely just screwed. Yes. Like for sure, I am in trouble. But you know what? This is the thing about having faith in Justin Herbert. He's just going to deliver because I think he's gonna. Because
I said so.
And that is fantasy. Now, like, what I mean, there is so much. These last 2 games have been a big struggle, right? You have watched him be able to see in his rookie season how he's had some huge ups. And last week against Belichick, and the way that Belichick plays difficult against rookie quarterbacks, like I think they're going to come back. They're going to want to get Ekeler involved. They're going to want to get Keenan Allen involved. He looks to those guys because they are his safety valves. Sign me up for that double stack. And man, I'm cruising right now. Okay. Is it always this easy? Like, do you, I'm just curious, like how the other guys like usually play against you.
I'm pulling a rope a dope.
Oh yeah.
So here's the thing. Daniel plays a head-to-head on our CSS DFS podcast every single week.
Oh man.
Against Mike Clay. And Mike is, very projections oriented, going to play the optimal lineup more often than not. And last year you got like curb stomped in the overall, right? Like it was like 15-2 or something ridiculous, right?
Yep.
And then this year
it was not 15-2, but it was like
it was bad.
I think it was 4. I think I'd only won 4 games.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this year you kind of changed your philosophy and you embraced that variance and said, okay, if I'm going to beat somebody that likely has a higher floor expectation than you do to build an optimal lineup, that you're adopting more of a tournament approach to your cash game and say, look, it doesn't matter if I lose. It doesn't matter if I lose by 3 or if I lose by 50, but you're going to take the chances that you have to take to try and win that game. And stacking up Herbert with 50% of his targets, if Herbert has a big day, Ekeler and Allen are going to get dragged along with that big day. And if Allen has 2 touchdowns and 150, then Herbert's going to have probably 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, it's you never go with really a cash game build in our show, and you're not doing it again here. But this is the way that Daniel operates. He says, look, I'm going to embrace the variance, and embracing variance is fine. You know?
I think it's fine. I mean, listen, right now we're tied. Mike on the show, Mike and I are tied 7-6. The only reason why he's up is because there was a week where I played Tyrod Taylor, and then his, you know, as you heard, he got his lung punctured by his team doctor just before the game started. So I think there's an asterisk to that one, but I hear you, man. Like this is one of those, like I'm in for the ups and the downs of whatever this is, but if it hits, it's going to hit real well, and I think it will help in some other areas where I'm not having as much volume from there. So give me that Chargers double stack.
Okay. So you don't have a flex.
My flex is Logan Thomas.
No. I'm saying remaining. You don't have a flex remaining. Yes. You can only pick running backs, wide receivers, and defense. Yep.
And you told me you weren't going to take the Lions on defense. We made that plan before we started this.
I said no promises.
Well...
Well, I am going to pick a defense here because that is one position that you can take. I'm going to take the Seahawks defense going up against the New York Jets. MESS, mess. At home this week, they've applied way more pressure to opposing offenses. This Jets offense, now we hear this morning on the Twitter machine that Denzel Mims had to leave town and he may not be a thing right now. So like less downfield threat for that offense. It's going to consolidate where the ball could go to the wide receivers, but like give me that offense going up against this newly fresh defense. The 12s aren't going to be in the stands, obviously, or at least not as much force as they were before. But the pressure that they can apply has greatly, since acquiring Dunlap, has greatly changed the prospects of the defensive backfield in Seattle. So I love the pressure and I love the turnover possibilities here.
Don't you feel like this is going to be a get right game for Russell Wilson? Like he's had a couple games in a row where he's just sort of looked out of sync. And I think the ability to take on the Jets and kind of get right for that whole offense to get back in sync. Like I love the Seahawks this week.
Everybody's been playing running backs against the Jets, and every quarterback stack has hit against the Jets. Right? Well, we can't play the quarterback stack because they're going to get beat by 50. Well, if they get beat by 50, how'd they get 50 points? It's not all the running backs.
All right. Coming back to me, Al, I am going to...
You have a running back, a wide receiver, and a defense.
I'm going to go with a wide receiver here. And I'm going to take the opposite side of what it is that is this Chargers game. And I'm going to go with the cheaper of the two Falcons wide receivers in Julio Jones, $6,600.
It's a good lineup.
Let me ask you this question. I mean, so far it's not looking bad unless that game, again, if that game falls flat, I am in trouble. But man, Julio for 6,600, like, you know, listen, the idea that if I think Herbert, Ekeler, Keenan Allen are going to go out there and have a game, I want someone on the other side of that. I don't love Calvin Ridley's price point. I understand that he could get it, but I would rather save a little bit of money than get a guy named Julio Jones. I've got a long history with Julio Jones, but I think this week he's going to come through for me. So sign me up there, man. This line, I'm feeling
Ekeler, Allen,
good about this.
Jones with the double tight end to try and get some value. You've got 4,800 remaining, but you have a defense. So assuming you spend 3,000 or less on defense, that leaves you with 11,400 plus for those other two spots. So in good shape in terms of money for those other two spots that you have there. I have 5,600 remaining. I need a quarterback. I feel like I can kind of pick any one that's there. I do like one passing game, however, especially with the absence of Humphreys, who is on IR. There's not that many places that the ball can go once it goes up into the air, and we have been attacking this defense all season long. So give me Corey Davis coming off of a really good month. 12 targets last week, not expecting that sort of an output again, but 6-7 against Baltimore and Indy. Played Indy twice, a very tough defense. Now he gets Jacksonville, decidedly not tough defense. So I think that there are a lot of paths to the passing game being extremely efficient, which we've seen from them in the past year and a half since Tannehill took over. So Corey Davis against Jacksonville at a much cheaper price point than AJ Brown, who I also like a lot this week, but I needed a little bit of value to kind of fit that in.
Man, I like that play. I like that quite a bit. All right, so who's your, give me your lineup right now.
Chat loves your lineup for tournaments, by the way. Chat's like, I'm putting this lineup in a tournament. I have Montgomery, I have McKissick, I have Adams, I have Gallup, I have Corey Davis in the Seahawks defense. I have a tight end, a flex, and a quarterback to go.
A flex and a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to change it up here just a little bit.
And I have defense, so I can't take one away. So you get whatever defense that you want the rest of the way, essentially.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take... Boy, Al, this is tough.
It's not easy.
You get to the point right here. Like, you get to this spot and like so much of everything. And now it's like, I don't want to take forever, but I also, there's a lot here to be able to try and figure out.
Talk us through it.
So it's tough because with a defense, I just want to wait. Like, there's no reason for me to spend anything, but I want to slot one into my lineup now so that that money is accounted for.
Yeah.
So that when I'm making my decisions, like, I know that I'm leaving, you know, however much behind, whether I take them here or not. So
exactly. That's the look on your end. You can do that. I can't do that because everybody sees my screen, so I can't plug things in. So like, here's another thing. I'll let y'all behind the curtain. Usually if I'm late in the broadcast and I'm letting him talk, I say, hey, tell me about this player. And I go to the one shot here where I switch it to just your face on the screen. I quickly flip over to my screen and start playing with guys to sell. I'll just be clicking around while you talk for like 30 seconds.
Oh, that's so good.
Anytime I go to that screen, that's what's going on.
All right. Here's what I think I'm going to do. I think with what we saw last week and how difficult that offense is, and given the price point that I need to stay around, I'm going to slot in Brandon Ayuk as my third wide receiver, taking on the Washington football team, $5,400. I needed someone to pair with Keenan Allen and Julio Jones. You're telling me I can get Brandon Ayuk and pair him with that secondary stack of Logan Thomas? Al, sign it up.
Chat right now is, they know that you pay attention because I've been preaching this to Twitch and YouTube all season long. We do the podcast every single week. You have a quarterback double stack with a bring back and a secondary stack in your lineup, very highly correlated. Chat spamming these smash emotes for you. They're big fans of your lineup.
Plays all around, Al. That's what it's all about, is just smash plays.
Well, you got 9,000 remaining for a defense and a running back. So I've got a quarterback, I've got a tight end, and I've got a flex.
Real quick question: is there a $200 defense on the board that I can choose?
There is not a $200. This is not Draft Street. Rip to Draft Street.
Okay.
There's a few ways that I can go with this, I think. In fact, I know that I can go these ways. There's a couple of running backs that I think are really solid. I could go, again, I have the money to go with the full pain lineup with Aaron Jones and DAVANTE here. I can make it happen.
Don't you dare. Just don't. Just don't.
Please don't.
Just don't.
Now, James Robinson, limited participant in Wednesday's practice, expected to be a full go ahead of Sunday's game. We do have the rule in this that if somebody is determined out by the weekend, you can change that player, that single spot in your lineup, because I don't want you to have a Tyrod situation or me to have a Tyrod situation. So like, we can switch out. I don't think you can get to him. So I kind of want to check this back to you just to see where you go, because I don't think that you can take anything away from me that I want. And I think that there's a very, very good value play this week at tight end. For the last 2 weeks, Mo Alley Cox has basically taken over the lead in terms of snap count, routes run, target share, and targets per routes run and routes per drop back for the Indianapolis Colts. And he's only 2,500 against Las Vegas. I believe that Logan Thomas is a very good value play. I think that Mo Alley Cox may be the best value play on the board to open up a ton of salary space for you in your lineups this week. This gives me the money to do with, you know, as I wish with the rest of this lineup. 7,100, 14.3K for my quarterback and my flex spot. I can afford pretty much whatever it is that I want the rest of the way here. And it allows me a little bit of time to set it up. So make your running back or defense pick, and then I'll get back to me.
This is so tough, and I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to take DeAndre Swift, just because I want to have a Lion in my lineup, and I'm not going to take the Lions defense. So 6,500, I could probably slot him in there, but I look at what I have on the board ahead of me, and Myles Gaskin at $5,600 is just too cheap at home, taking on the Chiefs, where a bunch of points are supposed to be scored. He's their pass catching back. He's a do-it-all kind of a guy. $5,600, like, I think he is the guy that I have to put into my lineup and then figure out my defense. Now that that part is set, now I can look through defenses and kind of figure out which play do I feel most strong about.
Fair enough. Coming back to me then, do you want me to make my last 2 picks? And then we'll come back to you for defense. All right.
Yep.
So at quarterback, there's a lot of different ways that I like this week, but all the last month and a half, even further than that, we've been streaming quarterbacks and wide receiver stacks against Jacksonville. I am going to go with Tannehill in this lineup. I'm sure that people think that Henry is going to do work this week. I'm fine with that if that's the way that you want to go. But we've seen multiple times where Henry has 100 yards and a touchdown or two, and Ryan Tannehill also throws for multiple touchdowns. He also has the possibility to vulture with his legs. Did you know that he played wide receiver in college?
He did? I've never heard that. What? That's amazing.
So he can scoot a little bit. Give me Ryan Tannehill. Did you also know, Daniel, that Mo Alley Cox played basketball in college?
My goodness.
I have a lot of multiple sport athletes in this lineup, up and down the lineup.
I love it.
That leaves me 7,600 for the flex. I really want to go Robinson. It gives me that bring back play. You know, he's been fantastic in terms of volume. He's had 19 or more touches in X amount of straight games. But it ain't about putting in the optimal lineup.
Oh, what's it about, Al? What's it about?
It's about inflicting as much pain as you can as is allowed within the rules.
I hate you.
So I'm going to go with Aaron Jones against the Detroit Lions. And I'm going to try and get as many glorious touchdowns as I can from this Aaron Rodgers-led offense.
I hate you so much.
So I've got Tannehill, Montgomery, McKissick, Adams, Gallup, Corey Davis, Mo Alley Cox. Do you know he's a basketball player? Aaron Jones and the Seahawks defense. Coming back to you for your defensive pick, and then we'll wrap it up.
I got 2 options here for a defensive pick in my estimation, Al. This is the way that I look at it.
3,400 remaining.
3,400 remaining. 3,400 remaining means I take the Saints and Chiefs defense off the board. Everyone else is on the board and available to me. Now, I can either take the Packers, trying to be able to hedge a little bit of all the scoring that you have from the Green Bay Packers, taking on a Detroit Lions offense that last week barely beat a Chicago Bears team. Although Matthew Stafford did look better, they threw the ball a whole bunch, definitely looked more efficient. Or I could go for the rare triple stack of the Dolphins taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. And boy, oh boy, if a triple stack doesn't bring home everything that we have ever been looking for, Al, like, it's just about doing the things that is just right in your heart. And right now, I know that the Dolphins defense is right in my heart, Al Zeidenfeld. I'm doing it.
Here's the thing.
Doing it.
And this is the thing that most people don't. We talked about this when you took the Rams defense when they were, what, 2,100 a few weeks ago against Seattle, when Russ was still cooking and not ordering from Postmates or DoorDash, right? For those last 4 weeks now. picking a defense that's going to face an offense that does not drop back to pass gives you less opportunities to score. But picking a defense like the Dolphins, who do apply a ton of pressure, have great defensive backs and cause turnovers. Yes, Kansas City is a very dangerous offense, and yes, Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the 2.5 years that he's been a starter of all time at this point. He looks like a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, yes.
It's a bold play. It's a bold strategy, Cotton, but it just might work out. There's your lineup. A really good tournament lineup, very well constructed. Herbert, Ekeler, Allen, bringing it back with Jones, Myles Gaskin paired with the Dolphins for a little defense running back correlation there. Ayuk to Thomas as a secondary stack, and a tight end in the flex just for value. You could have had 4,800 though. There might have been another play you could have made there, but it's a very solid lineup, up and down. Thank you for being on the show, Daniel. Appreciate you being here. Love you, brother. And if you don't already, make sure that you guys go over to wherever it is that you download podcasts and subscribe to the Fantasy Focus podcast feed. That's where you can find Daniel pretty much every day of the week during most of football season. Now it's a little bit more of a truncated schedule, but myself, Daniel, and Mike Clay every Thursday on the CSS DFS podcast on that same feed. Thank you for being here. Donate to the charities, at least check them out, and look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.